So you're thinking about making a move to the Boise, Idaho area, and this is the place that you've chosen that you are going to retire. You are ready to relax and just enjoy everything about the place that you live. And today in this video, I'm gonna walk you through a few of my favorite 55 and older active living kind of communities around the Boise, Idaho area. Stay tuned. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Shea Dolan, and today we're gonna take a look at some of the best 55 and older communities here in the Treasure Valley area. A few things before we get into it. I'm kind of gonna break down some of the context on what is a 55 and older community, why are the home prices sometimes a little bit lower than other communities around town, what should you anticipate when we're talking about the HOA, all of those kinds of things. What do you need to do to actually live in one is a big question that we get all the time. I am going to touch on a few of the other types of communities that we have in the area, but today we're going to focus on actual single family. You still get to own a home, have a garage, have a yard, everything that would be the same in any other community, but you're in a designated 55 and older community, which comes with some really great perks if that's what you're looking for. And to get started, let's talk a little bit about why Boise itself is such a great place to retire. If you want a full, much more in-depth look, take a look at this video up above where I went through a ton of the reasons why people really like to retire here in our Treasure Valley. But some of the main reasons that I hear from clients all the time is our access to outdoors and all of the different activities. When you're retiring, being active and still having things to go and do and really, again, enjoying that place that you live becomes extremely crucial. Boise and the surrounding areas have all sorts of different activities, whether you want to get into pickleball, you just like to go for walks, you want a ton of different neighborhood parks, you want to be able to walk through your neighborhood, go up into the foothills, whatever it is. Let's say that you just want to get into fishing, hunting, something along those lines. You will not be bored up here in the Boise, Idaho area, which is a big, big thing when you're heading towards retirement. Boise is also still a relatively affordable place to live. When we're looking at the rest of the West Coast and some of the bigger cities around our country, Boise is still one of the most affordable places to live, and we're really the only last big city like ours on the West Coast that hasn't completely taken off. For those of us that have been living here locally for a little bit, it feels a little bit more expensive than it has in the past, but it is nothing compared to some of the cities in California, Washington, Oregon. You know the drill. And this is huge because when we're looking at retirement, you are now on a total fixed income, whatever your situation is. So every penny counts. That way you don't have to go back to work 10, 15 years from now. That's not what anybody wants. And finally, and this is one that I've actually been talking to clients about quite a bit over the last couple of months, is when you're thinking about where you want to retire, depending on your family situation, we won't get too much into that. You want to be somewhere that your kids, your grandkids, their kids, your entire family could potentially move up here, be around you, and have a place where they can actually grow and build a life for themselves. In a lot of towns in California, for example, if your kids don't own a home already, if they may not even be out of college, whatever their situation is, them getting their start there, they're already behind the 8 ball a little bit. So when I'm talking to people, especially from California, who are moving up here for retirement, that almost always is one of the top reasons of, hey, my kids are going to college. When they're done, they're going to want to come live close to us. I would much rather them buy their first home in Boise, Meridian, Nampa, rather than in San Francisco, where they're really going to be stuck behind or in something that they really don't enjoy. So Boise, in the way that it's growing and still that relative affordability, all of the factors kind of coming together, this is a great place for those future generations to really set up some roots and kind of flourish over the next few decades. And one other note about the 55 and older communities is there are age restrictions. So a lot of times when people are looking on Zillow or such, they'll see these really nice homes that look a lot cheaper than everywhere else. They'll shoot them over and it's like, hey, sorry, those are 55 and older only. Now, each of the communities and their specific guidelines, HOAs, everything are going to differ. So feel free, look into those more. I can help you, whatever. But a big thing there is if you or at least one person living in your household is not 55 and older, these really aren't going to be on your list. For the most part, this isn't something where they can just kind of pick and choose as they go. If you don't meet that criteria, they just will not allow you to move into the home. And because of this, there's typically an extra step or two where before you even put in an offer and really get your build and your actual buying of the home going, is we reach out to the HOA, the community, whoever's kind of running it, and we make sure that, hey, if they do this, this will work. These are the people living there, etc., etc., etc. We look at HOA rules pretty in depth for any home purchase that we do, but in 55 and older communities, we really want to make sure, because they can just be a little bit more strict, a little bit more expensive, and you want to make sure that you are okay with what you're getting into. But it is important to note, let's say that you're 55, but your spouse is 51. A lot of these communities will allow for that kind of arrangement. Not everybody has to be over that age gap. What they don't want to have happen is that a grandmother who's 58, for example, wants to move in and have her entire son's family live with her. That might push the limits a little bit. Again, look into the specific rules, but I always like to mention that is the main kind of criteria that you're going to run into. But today I want to talk about 3 of my favorite 55 and over communities here in the Boise, Idaho area. We're going to take a look at a few on different parts of town. All of them are built by different developers so that you get a little bit of a taste of what you could actually expect if you were to buy a home in one of these communities. And when we're looking at these communities, again, why I'm highlighting them and the single familyness, this is just like buying a home anywhere else. As long as you meet the criteria for living in this community, you get the same type of loan, you can pay cash. Everything is very, very similar. The first that we're going to talk about, and you will see these all over the Treasure Valley, is Cadence by Brighton Homes. So in most of the communities around town that Brighton starts, they've begun to add this little bit of a wing towards the end of the development typically, where it's actually designated a couple of blocks, whatever the size of the area is, but like a side of the neighborhood that is completely designated for 55 and older living. So when we're looking around town, you're gonna find a Cadence out in Paramount, which is about 10 years old. You're gonna find one out in Century Farm. Pinnacle may end up having one once their development kind of finishes. Heck, that could take about a decade now. Out back in North Meridian, Bainbridge is still selling, so you can still buy a brand new home in Cadence there, whereas the rest of Bainbridge really hasn't been selling new homes in quite a few years. And then as we see more and more Brighton communities kind of get started or get on that development kind of pipeline, best way that I can think to talk about it, you're gonna have more opportunities for these. So if you fall in love with the Cadence idea, the Brighton as a builder, and this kind of feels like it matches your criteria, Cadence is gonna be an option that you're always going to have. Now, these do differ a little bit based on community, kind of what the amenities are. But for example, the one in Bainbridge has an indoor-outdoor pool, it has a spa, it's gonna have a fitness center. You're gonna have like a lifestyle director who kind of helps you keep your life active and bustling. You're gonna have a community center. Pickleball courts are popping up in all of these communities, so if that's what you're into, the fastest growing sport in America, you're gonna find those. And when I talk about all of these amenities, something that is important to note is in these 55 and older communities, you are most likely gonna have quite a bit higher HOA dues than you would in just a standard new development community. Without getting too off track about HOAs and what they are, whether they're good or bad, any of that, HOAs here are pretty standard, especially in our new construction communities. How they're enforced and kind of what they require and what they don't differs a ton. But when we're looking at a single family community and a 55 and older community, let's just use Bainbridge for an example. The all ages portion of Bainbridge is gonna have less expensive HOA dues, but their only amenities are basically the walking paths. You're gonna have the parks, the green space, all the great things about Bainbridge. You're gonna have one community pool in the outdoors, and that's about it. That's kind of where the HOA draws its line and says, this is the community that we've now given to you. But when you hop over to the 55 and older community, you get all of those amenities that I just listed out, and they're only for you. They're only for people that live in that community. Therefore, you have to pay a little bit more to kind of get access to those. Just sliding in here to give you a reminder that I am a licensed agent up here in the Boise, Idaho area. So whether you're making a move in 9 days, 9 months, I don't care. Call, text, email. If there's a way that I can help, I would absolutely love to. And make sure you've hit that subscribe button down below. That way you are the first to know everything that you need to know about the Boise, Idaho area. Let's get back into it. Now let's hop into the second community that I really want to highlight. And this is a big one that has been anticipated for quite a few years now, and is going to be a massive community over the next 5 to 10 years. we're gonna talk about Trilogy out in Valor. Valor is a new golf course community that's popping up out in Kuna towards South Meridian. It's gonna have Reveille, which is gonna be in all ages. There's a few different builders kind of all along the golf course. It is gonna be an absolutely stunning community with all sorts of amenities. They're gonna do a clubhouse. They're adding a second golf course out there with Falcon Crest. Valor is a really cool opportunity for anybody that's looking, but when we're looking at 55 and older itself, they have a whole section that is dedicated just to that, and that's what Trilogy is. Trilogy is gonna be built by Shea Homes. They're a national builder that really specializes in these kinds of 55 and older, high quality communities, still at a relatively affordable price point. Some of the things that I think would draw you to Trilogy over, let's say, a Cadence is one, if you're really looking for something that's brand new that you can get built to your specifications, Trilogy might offer you some because they're so much earlier in development, whereas a lot of the Cadences that are out there right now, they're either already finishing up, they have spec only, or there's just less inventory out there. And then, like I said, this is actually gonna be built, the entire Valor community, all the way through the existing Falcon Crest golf course, and then they're adding a second 18 holes as the development kind of finishes. For anybody that's been looking here, or if you've just been looking for a golf course community, those are tough to find out here. We really only have a couple with Spurwing. We've got Hillcrest down in Boise. Lakeview in Meridian kind of has houses running all the way through it. But outside of that, there's one over in Eagle Hills that kind of is a golf course community. It's really tough to find that. And when we're talking about an actual golf course community that has the amenities and the club-like feel, there's only really Spurwing and Hillcrest. Valor's gonna give you that opportunity. Focusing on what Trilogy is going to offer, they have in their development plan a few different pickleball courts. You're gonna have the golf course amenities that I just talked about. You're gonna have access to what they're gonna call the Treasure Valley Social Club. So it's gonna be this big clubhouse for you and you only, where they're gonna have different events, they're gonna have tables for cards, everything that you might be looking for. Again, to get out and keep active and really build that community together. And then for the entire Valor community, there also are some great amenities that you're gonna wanna look for. The biggest being that they're really trying to set it up as a resort style club. So you're gonna have a full restaurant, bar there eventually. There's gonna be a fitness center. There's gonna be a pool or two. Valor is gonna be a big master plan community. And if you're looking for that 55 and older, but you don't wanna be completely constricted to just the people that live in your neighborhood, this could be a really cool opportunity to kind of branch out and still have your little bit of a pocket. When we're looking at housing options available out in Trilogy, you're really gonna have two options. You're gonna have a duplex style, which is basically gonna be like a townhome, where you're gonna have one wall kind of joined in the center and then two units for people to own independently. And then of course, you're gonna have fully detached, just single family living. So depending on what you're looking for, you have some options there. And of course, the duplex style are gonna be a little bit more budget friendly. All right, and to wrap up, we're gonna talk about the third community that I wanna highlight today. We're gonna talk about Toll Brothers and their Regency community out at Milestone Ranch in Star, Idaho. This is a Toll Brothers community, so they're gonna be building all of the homes in this neighborhood. And some of the amenities that are really gonna stand out for people is you're gonna have your full fitness center, you're gonna have pickleball courts, you're gonna have multiple pools, you're gonna have a clubhouse that you can go and have activities, events, build that community in. And then you're also gonna have that lifestyle director component for if you need help scheduling things, if you wanna know what your calendar looks like, everything along those lines. They're trying to build this community around your lifestyle and give you a really high quality home doing it. Milestone Ranch isn't gonna be located on a golf course, but you are just gonna be a couple minute walk away from River Birch Golf Course. When I'm talking to clients and they're kind of comparing each of these communities that they're looking at, the main thing that draws people to look at Milestone Ranch is the fact that Toll Brothers is a really good builder. When we're looking at them and Shea Homes, Toll Brothers is probably gonna be just a little bit nicer. You are gonna have to pay for that, of course. Everything comes with a cost. But Toll Brothers is a builder that has a pretty good reputation. People have heard of them all across our country. They build a nice luxury home and give you some options. And that's really what we're looking for when we're building a home, is you wanna be able to choose some of the specific things that go into it. Also, Toll Brothers, when we're looking at their 55 and older kind of selections, each of these builders is only gonna offer certain floor plans. So when we're talking about Brighton, for example, you're not gonna have access to all of the Brighton floor plans. There's specific ones that they put in their 55 and over communities for different reasons. They're all the single levels, they're a little bit smaller, but also it's the lot sizes that they have. The lots in 55 and older communities are not gonna be these massive quarter, third of an acre lots. because a lot of people want that low maintenance kind of life. And the same goes for Toll Brothers. You're not gonna have access to every single Toll Brothers floor plan, all of the selections that you want. There's gonna be a certain number that you can actually choose from. But when I was looking through them, Toll Brothers was the only one where I even saw an opportunity for you to have a 3-car garage in a 55 and older community. This is something that I do not see very often. Because of the lot sizes, sometimes that 3rd car garage, that 3rd bay, just makes your kind of footprint of the house too big to where it's not gonna fit on there. So if this is something where you're like, hey, I would love to live in an active, bustling, all of these activities kind of 55 and older community, but I need a 3-car garage, this could open the door in ways that others just don't. All right, and there you have it. Those are 3 of my favorite 55 and older communities in the entire Boise area. So if you're thinking about making a move up here to retire, kind of set up those roots for the foreseeable future, this next step in your journey of life, and you have any questions at all, call, text, email, all of my information is down below. I would love to help and just help you answer at least one more question so that you feel comfortable about this next big decision. And like always, if there was a community that you just think I completely forgot about, or you really didn't agree with one, or you just have questions that you just want to put out there, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But until then, I'll see you all on the next one.